Hello, I'm Doug Montgomery, Senior Director of GRC Solutions at MetricStream. I'll be joined today by Vijay Natarajan, the Senior Solution Director at MetricStream, and we're going to be talking about transforming data into actionable knowledge. The topics we'll cover are just that. How do you transform data into actionable knowledge? What are GRC foundational libraries? How are they used to solve problems? We'll also talk about how they're implemented most effectively, as well as what are some of the measurable benefits of transforming data into actionable knowledge. And lastly, we'll talk about how MetricStream can help you create actionable knowledge from your data. Now, first off, let's talk about data and how it does transform into knowledge. So data in itself is just that, it's data. It's not information, it is not knowledge. Data becomes information when it is interpretable and gains significance. Information becomes knowledge when it's acquired and understood by some observer. And knowledge becomes actionable when it has context and relevance to the observer, so they understand what actions that they need to take. So what are GRC foundational libraries? They're a common data source that is shared across all applications within your GRC solution. And that's a very key aspect. They really need to be shared across the board so that you have good visibility across the organization and that you can also put things in proper context. Now, there's many kinds of GRC data, including organizations, objectives, process risk control, and many others. And you use this information to help solve problems. And the way that you do that, and let's take an example of being prevented from achieving some strategic objective. The most relevant example, of course, is the current pandemic. And to understand the relationship between the objectives and the organization and the risks involved, the data model is extremely simple. It just has the organization, objective, and risk. To understand how these risks are mitigated, you add controls to that model. Now, there are many other dimensions of this to help provide additional context, but the point is that the bare minimum to get this view that you need to start becoming aware of what's going on and identifying the kind of actions to take is very simple. And we'll bring this into additional context a little bit later as Vijay now starts to talk about how do you implement a data model that's effective for you. So Vijay?
Yeah, thank you, Doug. Taking off from where Doug left, we are going to look at how to implement a data model that is very specific to you. And we follow an approach that we label it as meets-min approach that we recommend to you on we will look at a 5-step process in properly designing a data model that will work for your GRC program. The first step is to understand all the possibilities and priorities. The second one is to understand the context and where to focus. The third step is to look at the focus and any use case specific recommendations. When I mention use case, it can be enterprise risk, compliance, third-party risk, op risk, or any other significant use cases. In step 4, we will actually design the data models that will work for you. And in step 5, we'll make this actionable. So remember to start with meets-min and progressively elaborate over time. Now in the step 1, we have to look at all the possibilities before you. And this is where a state-of-the-art GRCF tool can come very handy. There are a lot of GRC data objects that are present, and a state-of-the-art GRC platform can have all these objects readily commissioned and codified with all the necessary attributes. And the platform can enable you to link any GRC object to any other GRC objects that will help you drive your operational reports and MIS reports. So first we have to understand all the possibilities, all the GRC objects in the GRC domain that may become relevant to you. In the step 2, we have to understand the context and where to focus. So it starts something like this. Who are we as an organization? What do we intend to achieve? And what do we do? What assets can help us do? And what kind of dangers can we face? And what do we provide and produce? Are we relying on anybody else in this journey? Then comes the policies, standards, and frameworks as some sort of guidance for our activities. And finally, how are we getting regulated? Now you have a visibility of all the focus areas for the organization. When you set on your GRC activities and develop activities around these focus areas, risks will materialize. And to mitigate the risks by applying control will also come into play. In the step 3, we have to look at some use case specific recommendations. On the slide, you can see that there is a sample presented for the enterprise risk management use case. So by the Measurable approach, we can see the core objects that are mandatory to get kick-started in this implementation of the enterprise risk management. And you can see that as the GRC journey proceeds, secondary and tertiary objects can get curated and added to this ecosystem. And that's where your GRC program will get more granular and your reporting will become more meaningful and you'll achieve better and tighter control over your GRC program. The next slide, it's another example, but this time the use case is IT GRC. So you can see that the list of objects that will be selected for processing will be different. Okay, similarly, the secondary and tertiary objects that you may add to your IT GRC program can happen at a later stage in your GRC journey. In the step 4, we'll actually recommend you to look at or design data models that will work for you, and this can happen through discovery workshops. On the screen, you are seeing one such rendition. So we started with the possibilities, we looked at the recommendations, and now we are looking at a specific data model design. So this is where the different data objects are related to one another, and you also develop the different levels of objects as per your needs. So on the screen, you can see that the red arrows signify object relationships for a compliance use case, and the amber arrow signify the relationships of objects for the enterprise use case. And tying it all together, we'll make it actionable. Now you have the data and context relevant to the organization, and you observe, assess, and test on these GRC information that you have curated in your state-of-the-art IT GRC system, and you get significance and relevance out of these observations, assessments, and tests. Then you do a plan with the necessary interpretation. By the plan, you will take action through the knowledge that you have gained, and then there will be a monitoring program on all of these activities. So the information that you collected in setting up your GRC program will eventually generate more actions for you, and it will become a feedback loop for your GRC program. So with this, I give it back to Doug to talk about measurable benefits.
Thank you, Vijay. So in addition to some of the subjective or more nondescript kind of benefits that you typically think of, there are some very measurable results that we've seen our customers achieve. And we encourage you to baseline some information in these particular areas so that you can measure the kind of performance improvement that you can achieve by taking this approach. So as you can see, you definitely can get some very significant cost reduction in the number of issues that you have to deal with, and also a reduction in the time to resolve those issues. Those are all critical metrics and also critical to your performance. So in addition to that, whoever your solution provider is, they should help you in a number of different ways. So there are several ways that we typically help our customers, and that is by providing very focused discovery and data modeling workshops, which help you work your way through the myriad and all the different possibilities and zero in on the focus and the priorities as we had talked about before. We also conduct training for project teams so they understand how the system works and how to best leverage and visualize that information. We also provide an extensive library of program planning, execution best practices, templates, and other artifacts through our GRC Journey program, and also provide a platform for our customers to discuss and share ideas through the special interest groups. We want to be your trusted advisor on your GRC journey. That's our goal. That's how we both become successful. So with that, we're going to conclude. Wish you all the best of luck on your GRC journeys, and thank you.